Well, hello traders and investors. I'm LA Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective, and that means each day we take a look and see what happened today and what might it tell us about the coming days. I do this show for 5 times a week, every Sunday evening, and then Monday through Thursday it's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube and it's on the channel LA Little, and if you want to subscribe, you can reach up there and do so. It's free, easy, and keeps you up to date as content is pushed to you. As far as what happened today, let's get this centered here so you can see it. What we had today was, last night we were talking about, it's probably going to try to trade a little bit farther down in the morning, and then we get some sort of a bounce, and then just hold steady, and that's pretty much what happened today. Up about 0.5% across the board by the end of the day. Did trade down early. We'll see that here in a second, and actually that ends up being the only real positive out there today. Oil 5% up again. I mean, you were 5 up, you were 4 down, which essentially was 5 down when you take the arithmetic difference on an up and down day percentage wise. And then you're back up 5 today, and they had their inventory numbers. Inventory numbers are biggest they've ever been, but you got a big short squeeze going on, and they continue to push that short squeeze and push it hard. As far as everything else, not much else happening. The dollar's kind of interesting here. You're coming into the ECB meeting tomorrow, and the dollar really can't move. I mean, you're still sitting here, flat, and what you're seeing is the euro can't really move higher. Expectation is it may try to drop right on whatever Draghi does tomorrow. But you're seeing big rallies elsewhere, like in the Canadian dollar, and the British pound had a big rally, and you're seeing it in other currencies as well. And so the dollar is really not making any headway, even though the euro is the biggest piece of it. DAX trades up today, but still can't get over the retest region on the weekly. And you had a big rally take place, looks like tonight so far in the Nikkei. Let's move to the charts and see what we got. And as I said at the top of the show, really not a lot here today in terms of signals whatsoever. If you look at the S&P 500, you essentially have an inside day, right? Inside day, lower volume. It really doesn't tell you anything because, that could be just a continuation of the move down, so we could just get a continuation. But it could easily end up just simply going in the direction that it's been going, which is up. So inside days typically don't tell you anything in almost all cases. This was trying to get back into the swing point low today. The number over there was 1993.26, and you close it at 1989. So you don't quite get back into it on the close. Tomorrow's going to be the day, right? Draghi's going to do his thing. We're going to find out what really happens tomorrow. There was an ABCD structure in place. If you draw it out, it looks something like this. And so that ABCD structure never has completed, so you could still see a pop to go up there and finish it off. That ABCD structure, actually, I drew it a little bit too high. It's really about right there. So, it could pop it up and try to finish it off tomorrow on whatever Draghi does. I think tomorrow is going to be a pretty big number because I don't believe the Fed's going to do anything next week. And so whatever Draghi does tomorrow is probably going to be the main thing that happens both this week and next in terms of the central bankers. I said earlier that we did see a little push down, and we can see that here. It was off the bat this morning, right off the bat. You can see it here, slightly lower low today than it was yesterday. You had a little less volume. So what does that tell you? Well, you're trading back into, and you didn't quite get into the swing point high, but you're trading back to get into the swing point high. The top over there was 43.36. You traded as low as 46.36. You trade as low as 46.42. So you don't quite hit it. You have a little less volume. You go under, back over after a small little pullback. That actually is a positive, not a negative. And you got the same situation here on the NDX. It's got exactly the same setup. It is doing the retest regen bullish off that prior swing point high. And so when you draw it out, right, you take the high, you take the low of the swing point, and what you're saying is that, hey, we got over it, now we're coming back, right? We got over it, now we're coming back to see if it was real. Are they going to buy it at this price, or are they going to force it down lower before they want to buy? More aggressive buyers are going to buy it up here and try to push it higher again. And so it's always a test, something that you can hang your hat on and look at as a clue. You get an under, over, less volume in a swing point high. Again, that's a positive on the day. Finally, if we look at the Russell does the same thing, right? You had that big day down yesterday, 2.5% after this huge climb, and the Russell gets under back over, less volume. So 3 of the indexes all giving slightly bullish type signals tonight, which makes you think that whatever it is Draghi's going to do in the morning potentially is going to have some sort of a little pop to it to start the day, because these are all set up to try to push a little bit higher. I looked elsewhere. I looked in the overseas markets. There really is nothing happening in those tonight, so there's really nothing to show there. I looked, well, I guess I could talk about Germany. Germany's actually still within the bearish retest regen on the weekly time frame, so that's probably the only thing over there that was interesting. Gold, I was looking at it for a clue. It did pull back. Remember, gold had gotten over the swing point high, but it couldn't hold it. It got over one day, couldn't hold it, and it's back underneath it today. Last night, and then again today it trades down, and that's what should happen. You go over it, you fail, right, to stay there, you should get a push back down. The key on gold is what does it do when it comes back into this little area here, right? You've got the end of this, the bottom of this bar, you got the top of that bar. Just look down the line here. That's where everything's centered. That's where the TA today charts show you the support is. That's what the green is telling you. They're saying the more aggressive buyers are going to try to buy it in that price point. And so tomorrow, I suspect gold is going to move one way or the other off of whatever Germany does. I looked over in the oil market. Now, that was the only other place that we had significant movement today. In this oil market, you've got 3 days up and down, and they're back up at the highs trying to break over it. Now, this also lines up pretty good with the West Texas Intermediate, in that you have that prior bar out there on the West Texas Intermediate. It's actually the swing point high on it that it's testing. So far, it hasn't gotten over it, but it keeps banging up against it. You're off big, or you're up big off the bottom. Question is can they extend it and do it again? If you look at it a different way, you actually had sort of a range down here, right? And they're trying to blow this range out. If I were to draw it correctly, I'd probably take it up until about that area. They're trying to blow this range out, and if they do, right, then you have the potential to expand that range. And so I think that that's the big thing that's going on. The real resistance is this area right here. That's where it's at now. That's going to be a tough spot to get over. Of course, you got more resistance up above. You'll have it all the way up above because you've traded down so far. And just to give you a taste of that, here's the weekly. And so on the weekly, you could get all the way to 690 on the weekly, and you're trading at 543. So long way to go. Now I understand. I'm sorry. I thought I was looking at USO. The OIL itself hasn't been as good of a market since it went haywire about 3 weeks ago. Here's the swing point high on the actual contract, right? It's dealing with it now, hasn't been able to get over it. And so finally, if I bring over the weekly to show you how far this thing is traded down, that low that it could get back to, there we go, 1237. That makes a little bit more sense. So you got to, push up, trying to get back up to that area. That's a long way away still. And so if this thing really does get going, right, it's got a long way to go. If you look at the West Texas Intermediate, and I don't follow these patterns that much anymore, but really on the West Texas Intermediate, it looks like this right now. You're coming up and you're testing these swing point highs on the WTI itself, on the Brent. And so, when you're looking at it here on the USO, it doesn't track it that well. Right now, in a microcosm, yeah, this looks the same, but if you look at it longer term, right, this contract, right, USO, is always weaker than we see on the actual contracts. They don't track that well on a longer term basis, but on a very short term basis, you can use them to see where things really are. So oil trying to push up. Gold struggling at the highs, has had a big run. It's trying to digest it. Three little signals on the NDX, on the NASDAQ, on the Russell saying, hey, we're going to try to pop in the morning. ECB is the real deal, right? We're going to find out what Draghi can or can't do. And if you go over, and I'll wrap it up with this, if we go over to the European markets, in particular to the DAX, what you're going to see on the DAX is still struggling with the swing point high here, right? Still hasn't been able to get over it. It's congesting there, just like it congested back here, right? It's doing the same thing here. Question is, can it get the pop and take it up to the next area? That's really the question. If you look at it from a percentage point of view, the DAX has come off the lows at around 87 and is pushed all the way to about 98. So you've picked up 1,100 on 87, which equates to probably 12, 13%. So you had a 13% run now over the last month. Question is it enough? Right? Coming into the Draghi, is that enough, or is he somehow going to surprise? Because the expectations are for a lot more, right? They're expecting, to give you what I think the market's already priced in, is they've already priced in at least another 10 basis points negative more rates, right? Negative interest rates, additional negative interest rates. And they've also priced in, as far as I can tell, anywhere from 10 to 20 billion more QE. How is he going to over-deliver that and shoot these markets higher? I'm not sure, but that's what's priced in. So it looks to me like maybe a little pop in the morning. Try to test this high again potentially here on the DAX. A little pop on our markets as well. And then we'll see where they want to go. I'm not tied into higher or lower here. We're not getting great clues. Just looks like we're going to try to get a little move up. But after that, I can't really tell. We've already had a big move. Is it time to digest, or does he somehow send us higher? And that's really the question tonight. We'll find out in the morning. Have yourself a great night. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night. Good night, folks.